good evening and welcome to our first King's Talk of this new academic year. My name is Greg Hunter and I'm the Deputy Head Co-Curricular here at King's. And tonight we're absolutely delighted to welcome back former Broughton girl, Alicia Coillie. Alicia entered the world of marketing through social media and she worked for such clients as Coca-Cola for Benelux and KitchenAid with EMEA, and we will hear more about how social media can influence and what influence it can have on marketing. So please, at any time, type your question into the Q&A function of Zoom, or alternatively, put your virtual hand up and we put you on the air to let you ask the question directly of Alicia yourself. Throughout this presentation in this format, I will simply be asking Alicia some questions, so I'm more than happy to be interrupted if you would like to ask a question at that time. Please don't hesitate to do that. But for now, it's a great pleasure to welcome Alicia. Welcome, Alicia.
Thank you very much, Greg. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely delighted to have you here in this online format. Alicia, first, can you just tell us about your memories as King's as a pupil?
So many memories. Basically, I went to Broughton. Why I chose Broughton is because it would be close to the library. Like literally, I love reading, and the idea of being close to that beautiful building was just amazing. And the St. Augustine's campus for me was, a big place in my memories of King's. So, we spent sunny days there on the lawn and things like that with the girls. So yeah, that's definitely something that, comes back to me when I think of King's. What I just also wanted to show you all that I still have my King's card. So this was me when I was about, 11 or 12 years old. My mom had to look for a picture very fast, very quickly in order for this card to be made. So I still have that on me. And yeah, I was, King's for me was a huge experience. I have great memories. I have memories of great teachers, and I'm happy to see that, for example, Signor Bruna is watching. So that is for me a very big compliment. So hello, Signor Bruna. It's good to see you there. And then one other thing that I took with me to Belgium were my lacrosse skills that I couldn't play here. I moved them into hockey skills. But I do have some photos of my lacrosse team.
Oh, go on, show us.
So there we go. These were all the girls that I played lacrosse with. Really enjoyed that. And obviously I have a house photo of Broughton, especially the crazy one. With Mrs. Wakeham as my house mistress, and later on that was Mrs. Arvidsson, Father Fred's wife, obviously. So yeah, great memories. And I have some great friends. As a matter of fact, I'm heading to a wedding in November of Michelle Wareham, who was the first girl I met at King's and the first person I actually shared a room with as well. So yeah, this a great memory. My dad also has a photo of me on his desk on my first day at King's with my oversized uniform and probably braces also. So I get reminded of that sometimes as well, that photo exists. So yeah.
Oh, lots of wonderful memories, and it's good to hear that the network of old friends is still live and strong, and I don't blame you, Father, one bit, still having that photo there. So you left King's. Sort of what happened next and why?
So I came back to Belgium. So just a bit of information. I'm actually Belgian, Dutch-speaking Belgian. And I came back and went to the university in Brussels, where we have to, obviously, because it's a bilingual city. So I went to the Dutch-speaking university, where I studied English literature and linguistics, also Spanish literature and linguistics. But I chose that there in Belgium, this is a specific choice you can make when you go to university. You take two languages, which you take literature and linguistics. And later on, you can do masters in something more specific, which for me ended up being English literature. So I always loved reading. I only read English books. I am unable to read books in Dutch or French. I speak Dutch, French, and Spanish as well still. But English is really my preferred language of reading. And yeah, that's basically what happened. So I went to university in Brussels. And then I started working in social media completely by accident, I guess. Mainly because I think, well, mainly I was selected as a junior to work for an agency in social media because I speak 3 languages very well. And that's something that we really need in Belgium, because it's at least a bilingual country, some German as well, but mainly French and Dutch. And it's not easy to find people who speak several languages well enough to understand everything and to write and to read everything correctly. So there we go.
So that sounds like that was your start of your foray into social media. It was at university, sort of towards the end.
Yes.
You started to get into it. So what is social media marketing? And I suppose what happened next? Because it's one thing being good at it and being recognized a little bit. There's nothing to jump straight into a job, I suppose, from that.
Yes, definitely. So as I told you, like I studied literature, which is nothing to do with marketing, but I did find a common point, which is storytelling. If you can tell a good story in marketing, then you're good to go. I mean, you can see the best and most viral commercials are where you have emotion and where people, they get goosebumps when they watch something. There's the example that always comes up for me is the commercial for Always that is called Like a Girl, where they ask grown people, men and women, run like a girl or hit like a girl, or things like that. And you have this difference between the girly, running, people will be like over exaggerating, like super like stereotypically female stereotype, like ways of doing things, and comparing that to Run Like a Man, which would be very like more serious and more strength and everything. And then they did the same thing with small girls, and they would all be, they'd ask them run like a girl, and have this girl being like, being very intense. And it's just the way that speaks to people, and seeing like, oh wow, okay, there's something happening here, and it's emotional, and it's making me a little bit sad maybe, or happy, or maybe something is funny. And that's really the essence of when you're telling a story. When you're telling a story, when you're watching a movie, or even when you're gossiping, you have emotions going and things like that. And that's what you have to do in marketing. And that's where social media is very important, because social media is a human platform. It's where people connect with other people, and not brands with people, ideally. And that's where brands could have really the upper hand if they do it correctly, and if they approach their audience and treat them like equals and other people, and really come from a human perspective rather than a brand perspective, thinking, sometimes brands are like, okay, we're unattainable, like we're on a pillar, we're somewhere up there. But because of social media, I can DM any brand right now and expect a reply within the 5 minutes, because it's social media. So that's basically where social media comes into marketing. It's a very powerful way of bringing across a message.
And I think you just answered my next question that I've got myself written down here, which is, traditionally your marketing would have been print media, magazines, newspapers, moving into radio and television. And radio, I still think, is pretty powerful marketing, but sort of, has social media taken that? Why, you sort of said, why social media? Is it just social media now? Like if you were a big company, would you pile more to social media and a lot less into those?
I mean, social media is cheaper. Let's be honest, except for the creation of content, pushing rather your messages, it's much cheaper. You can get real impressions reach, which is basically the amount of people that will see your message, for a lot less money. Whereas when you have to pay for a space in a magazine, it's there, it can be a beautiful photo and everything you want, it's expensive. But how sure are you that someone's actually going to open the magazine and look at it and really absorb the message? And that's where social media comes in. You actually have someone, going through their feed. And as long as your message is relevant to them, which is where targeting comes in social media. You can really target in very big detail. You can target, I get targeted for cat food because I have cats and I may like some cat stuff on Facebook, so that's, that makes total sense. Whereas when I'm going through a magazine and I get, a commercial for dieting, I don't really do diets, so that's not relevant for me. So, it's much more targeted and it's cheaper. But that doesn't take away that it's not a lot of work, by the way. So don't make your interns do social media. Please have someone with a bit more experience help them out as well, because it really is a learning curve, which I experienced very detailed.
And is that just as much because of the instant interactive nature of it? And actually, you've got to be quick, thinking on your feet, replying, but also understanding that actually anything you write there could in theory be used against you, I suppose.
Yes.
The best way of saying it. So you can really sort of make a mistake and that could really cost. Yes,
definitely. Social media is, as I said, the brands really need to put themselves on a more human position and really, if you're talking to a special audience or an audience that is sensitive to something, or, today as well, there's so many issues coming up for which social media can be a very strong ally, but it can also be a very, very dangerous enemy. So if you message correctly and if you respect the fact that there's actual humans on the other side of your screen, then that's good. But if you forget that, and if you are going to position yourself as a brand, as I said, on a type of pillar, seemingly, you can be hurt by others or you can't be reached by others, that's the wrong approach to take. It's not the same as, if you have a billboard, if someone doesn't like your billboard, they're not hardly going to send you an email saying, I don't like this billboard, it's insulting to me. But if you put a message on social media and your comments are on, then you will definitely get any, negative comments if your messaging comes across badly. Social media, you need a lot of different skills. Not only do you have to know how to put together a strategy, but when you're actually doing the grind, the basic work, it's like the copywriting is also very, very important. And it's not something to, just to have someone with very little experience do it, because they can have the wrong, choose the wrong words or something like that. And it can completely blow up in your face, which is generally not a nice thing to happen.
No, and I know, I understand what you say in terms of what they would say on social media, because people tend to write things on social media that they would never dream of saying in person or in another format.
Yes, definitely.
So in terms of content, if we talk about organic and paid content, what's the difference between the two?
So, essentially you can combine both. That's fine. There's an overlap. Organic content is content that's not necessarily boosted, which means that there's no budget behind it, which means it's not necessarily targeted, and it is seen by the people who are already fans of your page or following you on Instagram. Once you put budget behind it and target your ad, then it becomes a paid version of that organic post, and you can target it to people who would find it relevant. I can give you an example. When I worked for KitchenAid, you can put out any messaging about cooking organically, people will probably be interested. Otherwise they wouldn't be following KitchenAid. However, for example, if I was talking about, hey, this blender is really great for making baby food, then I could target that message next to my followers who will see it organically, hopefully, because the algorithm and things like that. But anyway, you can target it to moms or dads and who have a small child. And that way your messaging will come across relevant for these people. And then they might say, oh, that's interesting. I might follow this page because they're talking about things that could be interesting for me in my life. The thing with social media, if you're a brand on social media, the one thing that you have to keep in mind is, how am I improving the other person's life? How am I improving the audience's life, rather than how are they buying or when are they buying my stuff? Because if you're in the mindset of they need to come to me, the brand, and buy my stuff, then it's not gonna, I mean, it's not gonna work out very well. But if you're gonna be like, okay, how can my brand improve the life of the person I'm talking to, then that's really the way forward, and that's really the messaging that you should take up.
Excellent. Thank you. Just a reminder that you can type your questions anytime into the chat, into the Q&A function of Zoom, or please put your virtual hand up. We can put you on the air. So tell me about, Alicia, tell me about your early days in working. So when you had clients such as Benelux, tell us a bit more about that.
So right now I work at Estée Lauder Companies, which is very corporate, very American, very different from the life that I'm used to. Before I was an agency. So agency life is, a little bit different from corporate life. I'm happy actually that I started off in agency. A lot of people who come out of their studies and who finish studying marketing or social media, they're often looking at the big brands and how can they get into working for the big brands. But because I studied literature and linguistics, I had to start from zero. I had to start from scratch. And there was literally no better way to do it than go into an agency as a junior and really just get into it. I learned so much. My first ever client was Coca-Cola for the Benelux being Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg. Generally, big corporations group our regions together because separately we are very small. So I learned a lot there. My first job my first big job was at Media Brands, which also exists in the UK. And as I said, Coca-Cola was my client, and I can tell you that for several times I ended up crying after meetings and things like that because I royally did not do well, or I missed the point of what I was supposed to do and things like that. But that's really how you learn and how you develop yourself. Right now I have 10 years experience in social media, and without that agency experience, I wouldn't have the knowledge that I have today. Not only that, but the fact that I have compared to a lot of other clients that I saw back in the day of agency life, marketeers have a very specific way of approaching marketing. They need to see numbers. They need to see that there's an evolution and it needs to go fast. But the problem is with social media is that you can't do it fast. I always like to compare it with a relationship with another person. I'm not gonna see someone at the other end of a bar and go up to them and say, hey, will you marry me? No, you start a conversation, you start a conversation, you get to know each other, you go out for a drink, you get into a lot of discussions in the course of your relationship, you get to know each other, you might have disagreements, you might get along better at some points. And it's the same when you compare the relationship of a brand on social media with their audience. You cannot expect starting a page on Instagram and being like, okay, if I don't have 1,000 followers by the end of the week, I'm a failure. That's not what it is. It's really a gradual growth, and people need to learn to trust you, your brand, and like the messaging that you're putting across. And that's really what is important in social media. I keep going back to the whole human thing and things like that, but that's really essentially what I learned in agency. And now that I'm in corporate, I just started at a job that they just created. So I work for Owned and Earned Media, which essentially is influencer marketing and social media marketing. And basically didn't exist beforehand. And I came into the company with most experience in social media, which makes me part of the team that helps out my colleagues who might have a bit more experience in influencer marketing or other areas. And they come to me, even my manager comes to me with questions or things like that. And I'm always happy to help out and give them any advice that I have based on my experience in agency with different clients from different brands.
I get the feeling that yeah. So you take it slowly when you meet that new client. You take it slowly. You're not rushing too fast, and making sure you understand exactly what their needs are.
Definitely. As an agency as well, you can't forget that I worked on similar brands at the same time, which meant that every time I opened another Facebook page, I had to kind of put on a different hat or a different disguise, because I had to start to embody the brand. Simply at Coca-Cola, I was working on several of their brands. I was working on Aquarius, Coca-Cola, Fanta. I think those were the main ones, yes. And those all have different personalities, because someone who will be a fan of Aquarius, which is a sports drink, will not necessarily be a big fan of Fanta, which is a drink that is mainly marketed for younger people. So in that way, you know, I wasn't able to write in the same way or share the same type of content on both of those brands. And then if you're going to stretch it out, because those are all drinks, if you're going to stretch it out to, you know, kitchen appliances or car brands and things like that, you really have to be able to manage all these different types of brands and mainly their audiences, and really understand where people are coming from and why they are there and why they are following your brand on social media.
Fantastic. And Andrew's just written in a question, and I've had this experience that he's about to talk about when I've bought things and bought cars, etc. Now, Andrew recently bought a vacuum cleaner, and I've got a Shark vacuum cleaner as well, actually. And he got quite excited about it and posted it on Facebook, and because that's what he does, and a lot of people do, not just him. And now he's already bought this product. He's confused as to why he's continually been asked to buy it again. And you know, this is where the social media goes wrong. Do you have any sort of thoughts on that?
Yes, definitely. Normally, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm the content girl. I'm not the numbers girl. I am not a numbers person. I'm the content person. But obviously, I have to work closely together with the numbers people in order for our content to work together with their targeting and their needs from me. So what is happening here is that you have entered the funnel by buying the product, but they are, yeah, I think it's also with the new privacy rules that they can't just enter, you know, your email into a database or into, you know, their list on social media to stop targeting you for certain ads. What they do know is that you follow maybe the brand and you were there. I mean, there's a geolocation thing and everything that could also happen. You bought it online, so you have, you know, the cookies, delete the cookies. That will help. Yeah, so basically, ideally, what should happen is when you enter the funnel is that, so first you're targeted with ads or content that you deem helpful. You're like, oh, okay, this product will make my life great. I'm going to buy it. Then you buy it, or rather first you might be targeted with any promotional ads that would say, oh, if you buy it now, you get a discount or things like that. And then ideally, once you buy it, they should target you with content that will help you improve how to use it or how to optimally, you know, take advantage of the product, or maybe accessories you could buy for it and things like that. So I don't know exactly in detail how this could be ideally remedied, but I think that there should be a follow-up somewhere, and where it goes wrong, where you have the product. I don't need this kind of, you know, messaging that I have to buy it again. I understand it's very frustrating. There's a little, you know, you can turn off the ads when you go to the options of the post. Maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but there's a little option to turn off the ads if you don't want to see them anymore. You can say they're not relevant for me, and that's fine. But yeah, I understand it's very frustrating, and I get a lot of targeted ads for hey, are you having your first baby? Look, guys, I am not pregnant. Leave me alone. But yeah, it's very frustrating when you get those kinds of ads. And that's really what I like to improve on when I'm working. Well, in agency at first wasn't very simple because clients don't always listen to you. But here at a corporate level, I have a bit more influence, and it's easier to work together with the people who are in charge of that to be able to improve that kind of messaging. But yes, I feel you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's so the message there is delete the cookies and click the button that says stop all ads.
Yes, not relevant.
And the perfect product is one where you got lots of add-ons. So you just sell the base model, and
Yes.
and then you can bombard with the add-ons if you're the marketeer.
Exactly. Do that.
In fact, we'll jump straight into another question. We've got Finn's asked a question here. You know, is there ever a situation where we want to keep that distance between the brand and the individual? For example, some brands rely on the prestige or exclusivity, you know, and might want to keep that disconnect between the brand and the person.
Okay. By person, do you mean the person behind the brand or the audience that you're talking to? Because there's a little bit of a difference. When it comes to the distance between the brand and the person you're talking to, I know that especially for luxury brands, it's not easy, but you still want people to buy your products. And if you're gonna kind of sieve through and say, okay, but we only want to be bought by that type of person, then at some point your audience is gonna, you know, it's gonna go away, or you will have at some point it's just gonna, you won't have anyone to target to anymore. An example is, for example, a friend of mine works for a very luxurious clothing brand here in Belgium, and it is very expensive, which means that people my age aren't really able to buy their products, which means all the people who do have the means will go buy the products, except that in maybe 20 years from now, or 30 or 40 years from now, those people won't be buying those products anymore because they might not need it anymore, or it's too, they don't go out as much anymore to be able to wear those clothes. So at that point, you do have to decide to market to an audience that is maybe younger, maybe less relevant for your brand, but they might become more relevant for your brand. And that's also something that you need to keep in mind, because otherwise, time goes on and things change. And, millennials are the people who 10 years ago, we were in our 20s and we didn't have the means to buy, I don't know, Estée Lauder products. But now when we are approaching our 40s, we're gonna change our lives and we're gonna earn more money and we're gonna be able to afford those kinds of things. And I think also my generation today, they're very like, okay, if I can afford it and I deserve it, then I will go for it. I have a lot of friends who don't necessarily make a lot of money, but they will go out and kind of treat themselves. So don't hesitate to not really break that barrier between, the exclusivity and of the brand and the people that you're targeting that might not be there yet, because one day they might be. So don't underestimate that. That's very powerful.
I know you said that you weren't the numbers sort of person, but in terms of in the company, but sort of what are those key performance indicators, those KPIs for social media? How do you evaluate? How do you judge it?
The KPIs. It's different for organic and paid. Some of it overlaps, definitely. The KPIs of, okay, I want people to see my posts as much as possible, definitely can overlap. As I have mentioned, there's the algorithm, which is this mythical thing that happens on social media when you post. Nobody really understands what's happening, and I cannot give you a total breakdown of what Mark Zuckerberg has in mind for this thing. It's a bit of a monster, and it's making my life very, very difficult. But basically, there are certain things that you can do to have your posts seen. When you want to create awareness about, for example, a new product, or you're starting up a new brand, things like that, your KPI is going to be reach and or impressions. Quick explanation about the difference. Bear with me. Reach is the individuals that you will reach, And the impressions is the amount of times that your post will be seen by individuals. So the difference would be, for example, I can see your post in my timeline. That would be 1 reach. But I can see it 5 times. That would be 5 impressions, but still 1 reach, because I'm only one person seeing it. So that's the difference. Depending on how you want to, communicate your numbers to any managers, you can choose. Reach is always a smaller number, obviously, than impressions. So awareness is a KPI. It's one of the most challenging ones when it comes to organic social because of that algorithm. But for paid, you can boost it. You can put money behind it. You can say, okay, I want to reach, I don't know, 100,000 people. Facebook will calculate to you, okay, it will cost that much. And it will make sure that, that you will be able to send your post out to that many people. So that's a nice one. Another one is engagement. Engagement is very important for organic social as well, mainly because you want to, with engagement, you can create a community. We want people to engage with your posts, talk about your products, ask you questions, and that way you can, create a community on your social media when people talk about your content, which is really nice. Also, engagement boosts your reach organically. So if the algorithm sees, okay, people are really engaging with this post and liking it and commenting it, it's going to show the post to more people, which is a really nice one to keep in mind. And then obviously there's traffic, any type of traffic. There's different kinds of traffic. There's also conversion. So basically sending someone to a website or another place by adding a link to your post. Again, you can boost in paid media your post based on, you can bid your money based on traffic. So you can choose link clicks, you can choose page landing page views, things like that. So really, what is more important to you, you can really check. The thing is with all these different kinds of KPIs is that you have to think about them before you actually create the post. Because if you don't, then your post is you're gonna be like, you can't, for example, write something like, hey guys, what do you think of this lipstick color? And then boost it to traffic, because if you don't have a link, or if you're not saying, hey, click this link and use this call to action, it's called, then your results are not going to be that great. So it's really important that you think about KPIs before creating your content, definitely.
Just to jump in on that, because I'd imagine that it's one thing if you click on a link that then sends you to a website and you buy something, and then they can track the fact that came from that link. But did they have some magic algorithm that says, okay, you've got this particular number of people that have looked at this, and therefore that has made an impact in the sales in this area?
You can track it, but then you are going into the world of Google Analytics.
Right.
Again, which I am not super familiar with. There is something called a Facebook pixel, which is also very interesting. It kind of works kind of like a cookie, because it will follow you around once you click on a link and where you go on that relevant website of that brand. So you can add a Facebook pixel into your website, and you can really, or into the link rather, and then you can really see what is happening, where the traffic's going, what people are doing once they're on the websites, because that's also important. It's not because someone's on your website that they buy something. The consumer journey continues after social media. But at that point, it is the responsibility of anyone who is creating the website and making sure that, once you have that person on the website, how can you make them want to buy something? I have written landing page copy. Actually, I wrote the landing page copy for one of the KitchenAid stand mixers, which was supposed to not happen, but I did so anyway, and they accepted it and they put it on. It's still on there. Very proud of that. I put in some puns, so I'm very happy with that. But once that information is enjoyable to read and interest awakens, then you can go on to the next step and say, hey guys, you want to buy it because it's awesome. And then, then you go on from there. So once you get people off of social media into the next step, which is your website or your web shop or whatever, you want to make sure that base, that landing page is really pushing people to go on to the next level, but that is no longer my responsibility.
I understand. And just before I jump onto any further, Andrew's picked up on an interesting point, actually, sort of how ethical would you say marketing and advertising is? Because I could see a situation where it could get a little bit not so good, I suppose.
I mean, it really depends on how you're going to approach things. If you're going to make things up and lie about it and things like that, obviously, like, you know, people will see through it at some point. Because when it comes to ethical marketing, especially on social media, I have had to almost fight with people who wanted to put bots on clients' profiles. Bots that would like other profiles and then unlike them, that would like different posts that were posted with a certain hashtag, things like that. On social media, at that point, it becomes, in my perspective, in any case, unethical. You can also be banned on Instagram for doing things like that, by the way. So don't do that. But again, those kinds of things are a quick solution, a short-term solution that in the long term will really, come back into, it's gonna end badly. So yes, and then, marketing, I mean, it's a fun world. But there's a marketing underbelly, it's just that it's out there. That's definitely, I'm not gonna say it's not, but I think as long as a brand you are, convinced of what you do, what you maybe do that's not super ethical. For example, I'm talking about, in my case, stuff like animal testing, things like that. If you're open and honest about it, especially on social media, then people will appreciate it. And they will say, okay, well, at least this brand has given me the right to choose and openly think, okay, are they doing something I don't like? Yes. Is it outweighed by other things that they are doing that I do like? Yes or no? And then in the end, you can decide to buy the products. I mean, treat your audience and treat your customers as adults, because when I see brands really trying to trap people into buying things by, saying things or trying to convince people of things that aren't real or aren't happening, then for me, that's definitely a no-go. And especially on social media, it's a very dangerous game, and you don't want to get mixed up in that, because the consequences are real.
It sounds like very much a potential short-term gain for a definite long-term loss.
Definitely.
Let's talk about influencers, because I'm interested to hear your viewpoint on this, because sort of you talked about marketing your product, and how you might do it through organic or paid content. How about getting to an influencer that's got 1.5 million followers and giving that product and let them do it for you? Is that easy enough? Can you do that? How do you go about doing that?
Oh, influencer marketing. So it's part of my job. It is something that I'm on both ends of, because I have a food blog, which I am gonna be honest, like, I have 2,000 followers, which is not huge, but I'm very proud of it. And I don't really, look at that. I just do it for fun. And people like to eat, so that's something that's my Instagram. You don't have to follow me. This is not a shout out to follow me, but yeah, I just really enjoy doing that. So I do get to be on both ends of the spectrum, being that I am on one side, the influencer who is approached by brands for collaborations, but on the other side, I'm also the brand that will approach influencers for collaborations. So that's definitely something, it's a very interesting world, because it's not an easy thing to to be in, because then it has such a bad rep in general. So for me, it's all about authenticity and really, when I'm looking for influencers, I'm looking for people who are themselves and who are not doing it because they want free stuff, or because obviously when I get free food, I am always happy, but obviously there's just points where, you know, it's not why I do it. And also if I do a collaboration, I have to sacrifice my weekends and yeah. but yeah, it's a very interesting world to be in. So if you have any questions about influencer marketing, please ask me, because I will be more than happy to answer. I think especially for kids or younger people that are trying to break through in influencer world, it's not easy, and it's not necessarily a career option that you want to choose, but it's definitely it could be fun to do. That's definitely the case.
How many do you need to be considered a social? Because I mean, you've got 2,000, so over 2,000. Therefore, you're an influencer, you know. So, and I all of a sudden got very hungry looking at that Instagram page because of all that fantastic looking food. But how many do you need? I plucked a massive figure out of my head just before. Do you look for the numbers they've got, or actually you look for more authenticity than the numbers per se?
Okay, so when it comes to influencers, there's like 3 tiers. You have nano, micro, and macro. When it comes to the number of followers, I have to keep my brand manager happy. So I cannot come around with someone who has 50 followers. It's, even if they do really great stuff, I have to at some point, you know, say, okay, we also have some kind of reach with these people. But it really depends on what you want from your campaign and what you want from people. I really dislike calling myself an influencer, because again, the word has a bad rep, unfortunately. But when you're looking at influencers, you really have to make a difference between what you want. Is it reach that you want? Do you want people to see the content, but you don't much care what the content looks like, except for maybe a couple of do's and don'ts, and, you know, the product has to be, you know, in the middle of the screen or things like that, then definitely look at numbers when it comes to followers. If you want content that afterwards you want to repost and that looks good on your post and on your brand page and really follows your visual aesthetic or your, you know, whatever you believe in and things like that, then really look for people who are aligned with you when it comes to how they use the product or why they would use this product. Again, as I said before, with the audience, with the influencers, you do the same thing. Don't look at how the influencer can help you necessarily. Look at how you can help the influencer build on their platform, because it's their audience, and their audience follows them because they feel and, you know, they feel something in common with that person, not with the brand necessarily. So if they see someone who's similar to them in the same moment in life, or someone who they really look up to use something, I don't know, let's say, you know, these drinking bottles, they will say, oh, that's something that would really fit my life as well, and she's using that one, and it's a really nice pink color, and I really want to buy it, and where can I buy it? So then you have that kind of influence. But if the brand is going to be saying to the influencer, you have to do whatever I want you to do, the influencer becomes a billboard, and that kind of takes away every kind of credibility that influencer has. And that is definitely something that you should avoid, which a lot of brands forget. And that's kind of sad.
I mean, I'm looking forward to the new James Bond, No Time to Die, in another month's time comes out. You know, is that almost the ultimate sort of brand influence, you know, almost just in terms of, you know, how many different, you know, whatever Bond's wearing or driving or whatever becomes the next greatest thing?
Oh, I mean, influencing, it has existed for centuries. I mean, especially you in England, you guys know when something has the royal label saying, you know, it's Queen buys this. That label has existed for so long, and people would buy pottery because the king or the queen bought it, you know? So influencing is really not something new. It's just that it has allowed people like you and me to become influencers through social media. There's a difference between seeing Nadal wear, I don't know who he's sponsored by, so please don't punish me for this, but if he's wearing Nike, And people who really love this guy and also love tennis and blah, 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 they will also buy Nike. If tomorrow he switches to Adidas, they might change and switch to Adidas. And that's basically, you know, where the whole influencing idea comes from. Now, as I said, with social media, the only thing that happens is that I go on social media, I'm living my life, and people really enjoy watching me live my life. And suddenly I get a lot of followers. Maybe one time I'm on TV, I get a lot of followers on top of that. And that's where, you know, at that point I have a lot of influence, because if 10,000 people buy my bottle, the bottle that I'm using, then that brand is going to be very happy. And that's, I mean, it's the simplest thing. It's just that social media has opened the doors to influencing to the general public, and anyone can become an influencer.
No, absolutely. A few more, just last couple of questions we've got. Another one from the audience. Yeah, are you ever sponsored to take part in giveaways? Are these giveaways sort of promotions? Are they always authentic?
Yes. Well, so I am currently ambassador for Carrefour, which is a supermarket brand, which I live right near, so I always go to that supermarket anyway. And a chocolate brand, Côte d'Or, which is essentially Belgian, but it has been bought by I don't know who. So when I accept these kinds of collaborations, I make sure that I actually use the product already. And the funny thing is with Côte d'Or, whenever I came back from holidays to school, to King's, I always had chocolate on me from that brand. Like I always brought it back with me to share or to keep for myself, you know, whatever. But the fact that then they came to me and said, oh, do you want to do collaboration with me? It really resounded with me, because it's a brand that I've been using since eating since I was little. So for me, that makes sense. If tomorrow another chocolate brand would come up to me and say, hey, would you do a giveaway? And I would say, yes, that would be slightly unethical. And I don't have a contract with Côte d'Or, because you can also, when you do these collaborations, sign, you know, get contracts made. And often brands will ask influencers to, you know, have a kind of block on all other competition brands. So you cannot be posting about, you know, the same product, but from different brands. So, you know, I would refuse collaboration or a giveaway from that other brand, because it just doesn't make sense, because my audience is going to be like, okay, but she's ambassador for one brand, so why is she talking about this other brand? It makes no sense, and also will be slightly disrespectful towards the first brand. But there are influencers who do that, and that's also something that that is kind of, you know, a telltale sign that these people are just doing it for the free stuff. So do keep that in mind if you're choosing influencers. That's definitely something to look at. For example, right now, we wanted to work with a TikToker. She worked with L'Oreal, so which is our biggest competition. And so we didn't do it, because not only for us, but also for her. We didn't want her to look, you know, to lose credibility. It's just not, you know, it's not very nice, and it's not fair towards her audience either.
And if anybody wants to buy that Côte d'Or chocolate, you're in Canterbury, you just drive towards Surrey, and the Lidl's is just on your right. And I know Lidl sells it, because I've had it from there as well before. It's good chocolate. Speaking of TikTok, use of TikTok. So what, I believe you're doing a bit on TikTok at the moment yourself. Can you tell us about your latest sort of campaign?
Yes, definitely. We actually started a campaign in September, on the 1st of September, because, you know, first day of school here in Belgium. We launched with, so I work for 3 skincare brands at Estée Lauder, which are Clinique, Origins, and Darphin. The last 2 are probably less known to you guys, but Clinique is my biggest one. And we have an anti-blemish range, which is basically targeted for younger people who have, you know, zits and things like that. So, you know, TikTok for us was the more logical place to have this campaign on. First time personally that I did a TikTok campaign for any, you know, brands. So very excited to work on that. So what happened is that we decided to And I think this is also, or at some point will, or has run in the UK as well, because often these campaigns are recycled within the corporate, regions that we have. So basically what we did is we asked for a couple of influencers to create content around the 3 steps of using 3 products, using anti-blemish solutions, which is the range. It's a skincare routine, basically. And we wanted them to show that you can still live life even with, any blemishes on your face. Guys, seriously, those are not a big deal. Worse things will probably happen in life. So really, when you have that, so we wanted to show people that, if you have a blemish or something, it's fine. Life goes on, and still enjoy life. And that's why we approached these TikTokers who themselves are, teenagers or, start of 20s when it comes to their age. And we asked them to create this content that we in turn boosted as ads. So instead of when you scroll through TikTok, having, this big Clinique promotional, hey, these are our products, buy them now, ads, you will see fun content created by these TikTokers. And I think, Greg, you might have one to show.
Oh, do I? I hope I've got one to show.
Do you
no.
want me to send you the link?
Yeah, maybe you can send me the link, yes.
But it's one in English. So definitely have a look at it, because it's
Hi guys,
I'm already playing it here. I have the link for
It's
it.
okay. This is a well-oiled machine. While we're getting that up together, get that going, a couple more questions from the audience, and then I've got one more question as well, and we'll get this TikTok up and showing. And I've just lost my questions from the audience. This is a really well-oiled machine tonight. Okay, so the next question was, I suppose, from Antoon, what's your view on Amanda Gordon and Estée Lauder partnership? So just a quick sort of snapshot of that for 30 seconds. Go on.
Oh, my dad.
I didn't want to say that, or you said that.
I told him about this. No, I love it. I think this is a very inspirational woman. And the thing is with Estée Lauder Companies, it's a very female oriented, women oriented company for obvious reasons. Not only the fact, that we create products for a lot of mainly female audience, but also because, a lot of strong women work there. I mean, it's created by Estée Lauder, who was in herself a very, very special woman. When she couldn't get her products to be sold at, I cannot remember which department store in New York, she just gave samples away around the corner and told everyone that they could go to that department store to buy her products, whereas they weren't there. And then the department store got so many requests for her products that they had to stock her products. So that in itself for me is an exciting story, a really nice piece of marketing. That, and also the pink ribbon for breast cancer is originally an Estée Lauder creation. Actually, her daughter-in-law is the person who started it in 1992. I know this because I am working on the campaign for October. Having someone like Amanda Gorman as a partner for this company is really just such an honor. And even though I'm quite below, low down on the whole food chain of Estée Lauder, I am very proud of this achievement. And I think she's a wonderful person. So it's great.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's see if I can, get this TikTok. Okay, hang on.
Sorry about this.
No, don't worry. I'm going to share my screen and we will see this. No, don't apologize. And here we go.
It's quite funny, I promise.
Okay.
Oh, I think you need to...
That nasty pimple I talked about a few days ago, well, I think he wants me to put my nose in his business because he's here for camping. He doesn't want to go away. Why? Well, no one knows. So to get rid of it, I'm gonna try some Clinique products. So I got a cleansing foam for, to clean my face. I got an all-over clearing treatment to cure my acne. And of course, a clarifying lotion so that I have a shiny skin. I need to put some water on my face. I start with the phone. Oh. Oh, the anti-bremi solution for your acne reduction. My skin feels soft like a baby's ass. Like a baby. Hi guys, remember that nasty pimple I talked about a few days ago?
Right, fantastic. As you can see, I'm not really quite with the world of TikTok there, actually, so I apologise to all of that.
No worries.
So, two more questions. One more from the audience, and that is sort of what's next for you? How's your career developing? Do you want to set up your own agency?
I don't actually. I'm really happy that I don't have to deal with clients anymore. No, it's very agency life is I'm gonna say not easier or harder than corporate life because they're both very different. I don't know if I want to create my own agency simply because it just seems like a lot of work. No, but no, I came from a small agency, so I know what it looks like. My previous agency, there was 10 of us. 2 of those people were the bosses and the creators of the agency. So I know what is, what kind of work happens behind the scenes, because I ended up being one of the most senior people of that agency. And when both my bosses were out, I was the go-to person. And I can tell you it's a lot of pressure. And the whole admin thing is just, I mean, I have to make purchase requests and purchase orders today. And that for me is already a lot of admin things happening. When it comes to my personal career, the reason I joined Estée Lauder Companies was mainly because I wanted to, at some point in my mid-30s, go to the client side. I did this slightly earlier, seeing as I'm 33. I'm not going to say that's mid-30s. I'm going to say that's early 30s. So I'm slightly ahead of schedule of what I intended to do with my career. And then the fact that I joined Estée Lauder was just, there is so much opportunity to grow within the company and to learn more things that is just very impressive. Also, they're making me stay for at least 2 years because they were like, please stay for at least 2 years. Because I mean, it's not easy to find the profile that they are looking for within my position, especially in Belgium because of the bilingual thing and things like that. So that's something. And honestly, I have my dream is to move back to the UK. Obviously, a little bit more difficult with Brexit happening and things like that, but I think somewhere like Estée Lauder I can grow internally in regions as well. So I could go to EMEA, which is Europe, Middle Eastern Africa. So it's a higher level up when it comes to regions. Or, if I could join the UK and Ireland, Scotland region, that would be so cool. But yeah, so that's kind of what I'm hoping. But in any case, the fact that I was able to join this company, it's just a really nice thing to have on my CV, and it's just it'll open up so much opportunity for me in the future. And then when it comes to social media, I mean, it's evolving every single day, so I have to stay on my toes all of the time. I have to learn things. I'm constantly in contact with colleagues of mine, well, colleagues as in, people who have the same job as me, but for other agencies or brands, because we have to keep each other informed of these things. So I don't know where social media will take me, but what I do know is that I really enjoy it. I'm also writing articles and content for retailers. So that is already a next step that I'm taking within my job at the moment, which wasn't originally in my job description. But yeah, so many things that are opportunities that could come along and really give a new direction to my career.
Thank you. Last question. So I want to know the message for the Shell pupil. I want to know that person that wants to get involved in social media, be a social media influencer. I would get concerned when I've got children at that sort of age. And it's so easy to make a mistake on social media with things you post or things you do that will, and there's so many examples of that now, that will come back and bite you later in careers and whatever it is. What would be your recommendation? Would you recommend 12, well, you can't, you're not supposed to at 12, but 13, 14, would you recommend getting to social media and do lots? Do you have to have a huge social media profile? Or actually, would you try and avoid it a little bit and do other things, and once you're a bit older, build on that? What's more, if you want to be that legend, what do you want to do on social media as a younger person?
It's a very loaded question. I don't want to take responsibility for what your kids or any Shell students might get up to after I say things. First of all, personally, Facebook literally went up publicly, globally, when I left King's, just when I left King's. So which meant that for me at that point, it was a platform to stay in contact with my friends that I was leaving behind. So there were no brands there at all. And we just had, you know, Facebook wall where we left each other messages publicly and things like that. Obviously, social media has changed a lot, and kids that are now, you know, 13, 14 years old, they've always known about social media. It's always been in their lives. It has not always been in my life. So that's definitely something to keep in mind, because for them, it is part of life, and it is part of your social group, your social circle. If you're not on certain platforms, then maybe you're missing out on things. There's this great thing called FOMO, the fear of missing out, which a lot of people are suffering from. So yeah, it's also ingrained in friendships, and you know, it's sometimes it's you have to have, for example, a TikTok account in order to be accepted within a certain group of people that you want to be, you know, part of or friends with, and things like that. For me, what is most important, because social media, obviously, I cannot guarantee that it's not all, you know, rainbows and butterflies and things like that. There is a bad side of social media. That's definitely true. However, it is a place of creativity, of sharing, of information. I get most of my knowledge on what's happening in the world from TikTok. Like, I'm not kidding. I spend easily an hour on TikTok almost every day. Like, it just flies. It just flies. It's very, I'm on feminist TikTok. It's just super interesting. But yeah, it's just, for me, when you have kids on social media, I think it's important to teach them how to use social media, instead of saying, you know, here are my boundaries, because kids will probably use, you know, try to, you know, surpass the boundaries. It's like saying to your daughter, don't date that guy, he's no good for you. She's gonna date him, you know. So it's kind of the same approach. Like, if it's happening, and if your kids are interested in social media, then educate them on it, and say, okay, be aware that there are, you know, things that aren't very nice on social media. And if you know this, and if you give them that education and that information, then they can keep it in mind, and they can be more careful. If you forbid kids to be on social media, they will find a way. And if they don't know about the dangers of social media, then that's more dangerous in my eyes than someone who is on social media openly in front of their parents, but who knows what they're doing. So that for me is how if I ever have kids, that's how I would raise them when it comes to social media. So I hope that helps.
I think it does enormously, and I think it's incredibly wise words, actually. You know, you don't try and shelter, you educate,
Yes.
and allow them to discover, hopefully in the safe bounds of, I think of the King's people in the safe bounds of King's, or the safe bounds of your home, in terms of how to behave and act online.
Yes. But I also would like to say, for any young people watching, don't pretend to be someone on social media that you're not, because it's not worth it. The people who you see on social media, who have maybe perfect bodies or no blemishes on their skin or things like that, I mean, most of it's probably fake. I mean, I know when I'm taking my photos of my food, There's junk everywhere, you just don't see it in the photo. There's stuff everywhere, you just don't see it in the photo because I framed it nicely. And that's a metaphor for most social media things that you see, that you think, oh my God, this person's life is perfect. But don't worry, we all have our problems and we all have our issues. And the only thing that I can really tell you is be yourself. Don't pretend to be someone you're not. Don't hide your flaws, because your flaws make you beautiful. And that's really what's most important is that you don't forget about yourself on social media or anywhere else.
Absolutely. And at the moment, I'm in my office at the moment in Laddergate, and you can only see this, and it's good because there's a lot of stuff around other areas at the moment.
Yeah.
Work.
My desk is a mess.
And look, Alicia, thank you so much for your time tonight.
My pleasure.
If I draw an analogy, as a teacher, I think everybody thinks they know what a teacher does because they've been to school, and I can imagine, it's the same as a doctor. I've been a doctor before. I've been a well-being doctor. I know exactly what they do. We've all been on social media. We know exactly what you do. Well, actually, no, we don't. Mm-hmm. And actually, I think you've broken down some of those barriers and boundaries and explained about how marketing works and why it's important in social media and catering for the individual and that immediate response and interactivity with your clients and the pitfalls that go with that and hearing about sort of those key performance indicators for social media and influencing in your food blog and the importance of that. And I clearly feel like, because I don't really watch any TikTok. I haven't watched any TikTok before. I feel like I don't know any of the news because
you should. And I'm just going to warn you beforehand. When you start, it's going to be like, oh, what are these people doing? But once you start interacting with the videos, you will land on a side of TikTok that will be fully responding to your interests and your likes. So for example, for me, for some reason, I have a lot of feminist content on TikTok, but it's educational. A lot of talk about people, that whose people in the past were colonized, and they were talking about current issues around that. And for me, it's super interesting. So I'm getting all that kind of content at the moment, and it's very nice. So Greg, once you start TikTok and you give it a little bit of time, interact with things that you like, skip the things that you don't like, and then you will find that that it's actually a very fun place to be on.
Alicia, you've inspired me. Even though I'm not that much older than you, I feel like I'm a lot older because I don't know much about the TikTok. But you've inspired me to explore the world of TikTok, and I hope it has with other people watching. Thank you so much again on behalf of everybody here at King's. You please come and you were talked about. You're hoping to come and visit in a couple of months when it's possible. Please come and visit. And thank you so much for your time tonight and giving that there. It really is appreciated by everyone. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, everyone. I'm happy to answer any other questions that you might have. You're welcome to contact me, and I'm sure Greg will put you in contact with the right people